Arriving on the island in the morning, a group of 2 guys and 2 girls quickly set up their tents, spread out their supplies, and were ready to relax, drink, fish, and so on. The men decided to fiddle with firewood and brushwood, and one girl, named Daria, decided to sunbathe. Oksana, on the other hand, went into the interior of the island. She was always interested in sticking her curious nose everywhere. Putting headphones in her ears, turning on soft music, she went for a walk in the woods. She walked for a long time, because it was very exciting to her to wander in strange places. To not get lost, she left all sorts of marks, where a twig crept plummet, where the ribbon binds. The island is not small, do not want to get lost, and then wander for hours to the shore, and if more and go to the wrong part of the island. So Oksana reassured herself, leaving such landmarks, pointing the way back. Soon she was tired of walking, and as if nothing had happened, she went back. She went along the same path, as she thought, but suddenly she came to some dark glade, inaccessible to the sunlight, above which the thick deciduous branches of trees were hanging, which had become an obstacle for the sun. She reached the middle of it and stopped. Strange. Where did the clearing come from? I definitely remember that I did not pass it, thought Oksana, not even suspecting that behind her, 15 meters away, some ugly man, dressed in old rags, attacked another person who had tried to call her. Oh, stupid, leaky memory. The ribbon is there, so I was here. Seeing her mark, she thought, and went on her way. And the man dressed in old rags followed her. She walked for a long time, the sunset was already beginning. She turned off the music, which bored her. Strange, she did not walk long in the woods, but back. Oksana began to say to herself, maybe because of the music it was going so quickly? Maybe it was the music that rushed her, she muttered to herself again. Suddenly out of the corner of her eye the wayfarer saw a human silhouette flashed on the right. She sharply turned her head and peered, but did not see anyone. Turning back, the girl was taken aback. She asked herself aloud at the sight of her markings. All the twigs around had been broken the way she had, and on nearly every tree and bush were ribbons, as if someone had hung them on purpose to throw her off the trail. Then a silhouette flashed again, which Oksana noticed out of the corner of her eye, and then she turned her head sharply, but no one was there again. When she returned her gaze, she saw the man in tattered rags. To say that she was not frightened was to say nothing. The first thoughts that came into her mind were that this was a maniac who wanted to kill her. The man slowly pulled a sickle from behind his groove and made a gesture at her throat. The girl turned sharply and ran as fast as she could. She could hear him running after her. She was very scared, because, in her opinion, the forest is a favorite place of serial killers. Suddenly she stumbled over a rock and landed flat on her face. Her breathing became labored. Oksana began to suffocate. The maniac caught up with her and piled his whole body on top of her, then tried to stab her in the throat with his sickle. The girl resisted wildly, holding his hands. Then she became even more frightened, for the man's eyes glowed bright green and his long pointed tail showed, with which he intended to pierce her head through, no longer trying hard to reach her with the sickle with his hands. She felt his hands slacken and searched for something to fight the scoundrel with. Fumbling with her hand for a necessary self-defense item, her phone, which was not small at all, the murder victim took it out of her pocket and hit the creature in the temple with the corner of the smartphone. The creature twisted in pain, and Oksana got up and ran forward without a backward glance, where she saw a dugout-type house, the door of which was open wide. Looking back, the girl saw that a mutant human, as she thought, was already chasing her, so she ran straight to the door. Diving into the opening, Oksana sharply slammed the door on itself, and the creature, she could clearly hear, slammed against the closed obstacle with all her weight. Fortunately, there was still a latch. The creature began to break in and yank on the door, but to no avail. It did not suffer long and began to walk in front of the house, peering through the boarded-up windows, and the girl sat, crouched down in the corner, afraid that this monster would find a way to break in. When all was quiet, Oksana went to the door and pretended to open the latch, when suddenly the creature rushed sharply toward the entrance, in an attempt to break in again. "Lurking, you bastard!" said the girl angrily. Once trapped, she sat down in the farthest corner, away from the door, and waited. From time to time the girl heard footsteps along the cabin, the scraping of claws on wood, and sometimes she saw bright green eyes that sometimes peered through the cracks of the dilapidated dugout. And so she sat there until sundown. What she should do now, she did not know.